Now we are live.
Okay, 1 second, please. Can you pass me my phone? Thanks very much. I need to answer an email because I can't do it from there. It's an urgent email.
Okay.
Right there. Okay, just a second now. Eve. Oh.
Hat Chopin bewegt?
Was?
Was Chopin gestorben?
Aber der war ziemlich alt.
Er ist mit 35 oder so gestorben. 39. Okay, bisher haben wir auch 0 Zuschauer.
Was?
Bisher haben wir auch 0 Zuschauer.
Ah.
Hi, Dina, Michael, it's Paul. Sorry for this late call. I'm about to start the masterclass now. You can catch it on YouTube. I know you don't have Facebook, but it's on YouTube. Email me because I can't get to my computer, but I can get, of course, to my phone and check your mail from the phone in case you can't find the link. But just type Bempechat Masterclass YouTube and it should come through. Thanks, take care. These are my oldest friends, high school, and they are the ones who were both at Manhattan School of Music at the same time. All right, now I need to turn off the volume of the phone. I'm breaking my own rule here. I'm never putting anything on the piano, any liquid on the piano. So we are live now, right?
Yes, we are.
Hello, everybody. Of course, I can't see you wherever you are, but welcome to our class. This is the 4th Masterclass, International Masterclass Online. And as you see, we have Denzel in the Philippines, Amelika, who is from Bosnia. She's in Graz. And we are here in Watertown, Massachusetts, just about 10 minutes away from the Harvard campus. So, welcome. Today we have a lot of Chopin, and we'll have Beethoven, and perhaps even some Schumann. So, Melika, please tell us about yourself before we start, so that people can get to know you more.
Hello, my name is Melika Pusa. I'm 22 years old. I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but I'm currently living and studying in Austria, in Graz, and I'm studying at the University of Music and Performing Arts under the guidance of Professor Sergio De Simone, currently doing master degree.
And you were playing the barcarolle today.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just a bit of an anecdote. My late professor, who was like a grandfather to me from time to time, would say that this was the most difficult single piece that Chopin ever wrote. So I don't completely agree with him, but I knew what he meant. I think emotionally speaking, it's probably the most difficult, along with the second movement of the concerto that Denzel is going to be playing for us, the F minor. Okay, Melika, let's get to it.
Yes. Is this okay?
1 second. Yeah.
Good. Perfect.
I can't see your face, but I can certainly see the keyboard in your hands.
Yeah, I don't know. If I put it away, it will be too far, I think.
All right. Melika, hang on a second, please. Melika, we have a problem with audio. It's not coming through very well. Val had some kind of technique for this.
Malika, if you go in the audio settings of your Zoom.
Just a second. Chat, transcription, meeting, Einstellungen.
Yes.
Mein
Go to
Video.
Einstellungen.
No, this is not it. Just a second, because I'm on my phone, I cannot bring everywhere my laptop, so I'm not sure how much I will be able to.
Okay.
Einstellungen. Maybe it's here. Just a second. Problem melden, Datenschutz, Gemeinschaftsstandards.
So, irgendwo musst du Audio-Einstellungen haben oder Toneinstellungen.
Kontakt, nein. Meeting. Okay. Mein Mikrofon immer stumm schalten, nein. Automatisch mit Audio verbinden, nein. Mein Video ausschalten, mein Video bla bla bla. Name anzeigen mit Originalton.
Mit Originalton, das ist die Einstellung, die wir brauchen.
Okay. Nur das einschalten?
Ja, das mal einschalten und dann spiele gerade mal ein paar Noten, dass wir sehen können, ob es funktioniert.
Ja, Moment.
Play a little bit more.
Moment. Weiß ich nicht, was jetzt passiert mit dem Video. Moment. Okay, jetzt versuchen wir zuerst Audio ein.
Okay, Melika.
Yes?
Now we cannot see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, just a second. Yes. Now you can see me and hopefully hear me well.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Melika? Okay,
Yes?
we're having audio problems still, but before Stefan gets back to you with the audio, just one thing. It's sounding very good from what I can pick up, and the tempo is absolutely right. Just save all the expression for the end. The piece basically plays itself, as I keep saying many times. It really doesn't need much help. So the main thing to do is not to do too much. All right? I wish the sound were better, but we're going to start working on that.
Ja, Melika, wenn du nochmal an dem Telefon schaust, ist jetzt oben links nochmal eine Einstellung mit Originalsound?
Ja, das habe ich eingeschaltet.
Ah, das hast du eingeschaltet, da steht jetzt
Ja,
Originalsound,
genau.
steht rein. Und dann, wenn du nochmal in diese Audio-Settings gehst.
Moment. Ja, genau.
Und was
Es
nach
ist
was du
eingeschaltet.
Ja, nach was du schauen solltest in den Audio-Settings ist Noise Suppression oder Rauschunterdrückung auf Deutsch wahrscheinlich.
Moment.
Ja.
Allgemein. Nein, ist nicht da. Ja.
Also auf Englisch heißt die
Ja,
Einstellung.
es ist eingeschaltet. Dann es gibt nichts mehr. Also wenn ich dann einfach draufklicke, kommt
Schalte das
nichts.
mal,
Nur kann man aus- und
schalte,
einschalten.
ja, Melika, schalte mal den Noise-Unterdrückung aus, dass er aus ist.
Was? Entschuldigung?
Schalte mal die Rauschunterdrückung aus.
Das sehe ich nicht.
Also, was hattest du gerade gesagt, was du siehst? Zum einen ausschalten.
Nein, nur Originalton.
Originalton ist das einzigste.
Das ist jetzt eingeschaltet.
Okay. Und in den Settings siehst du nichts, was irgendwie nach Echo-Unterdrückung oder Rauschunterdrückung oder sowas klingt?
Nix.
Nix. Das weiß ich jetzt auch nicht. Dann muss das an dem Mobile Client auf dem Telefon liegen.
An der was?
Also, weil Melika uses the phone and the phone doesn't have all the options of the desktop.
Yeah, I understood that.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have your computer with you?
No, I don't have my computer with me because I had lessons before this and I couldn't carry it with me the whole day.
All right,
Because
so we do what we
usually it
can.
works only with my internet and then I also need to carry the box for the home internet, so it's a bit complicated.
Yeah, okay, we do what we can then, okay. All right, back to this section, please.
Yeah, I should play from that place, right?
Right, please, from where you left off.
Yeah.
No, faster, faster. Bach style. the beat.
Okay. Okay.
Just a second. Warte mal. Remember, he was a Bach fanatic, so we need to respect that. Faster, faster.
Okay.
Appoggiatura.
But it's not how it's written.
It depends on the edition. There are 9 different editions of this. Chopin, we can never know what's precise in Chopin editions. Remember this, everybody. He sold the same piece to 3 or 4 different publishers to make money. And he would change one thing in one piece to another thing in another piece. So what is the correct edition is up in the air. It's been a very big problem with Chopin editions since he died. And even during his lifetime, because he would sell it to one guy in Paris, another guy in London, a third guy in Germany, and it's a mess. So the main thing is to follow the guidelines, and when it comes to grace notes, most of the time they are in the Bach style, because he was addicted to Bach. And here it's more emphatic. It has to be circumstantial as well, but it has to be quite emphatic. And he begins with this declamatory. The most important thing is to calibrate this decrescendo, right? Because you were getting way too soft. Of course, it's a problem with audio, but this is, a scream. In French, we would probably call it un cri de cœur, a cry from the heart. But and I keep the C sharp, the low C sharp, as much as possible until it starts to interfere with the melodic and harmonic interplay. Just taper off at the end, not too much ritardando, or you fall into this terrible trap of sentimentality. Now this, as equal as possible, as metronomic as you possibly can do it, and not too fast. Keep it on the slow side. And one of the great things to remember, most important things, is the balance here in the third. Because you have to do a very good legato. So you need the absolute perfect fingering, and the balance between the upper and lower notes, of course, is going to be the upper note that is important. But be careful that your thumb is not too heavy. Remember, this has to glide on the water. You have to be a bit metaphoric here. It has to glide on the water. All right, so we'll get back to all this when you finish playing through, but please take it from the recitative. And quite metronomic here as well, because we're going, it's extremely sudden and it's extremely bitter. There's a bitterness about this. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
No. It's way too romantic. Way too schmaltzy. That's a New York word for this type of thing. Leave it alone. It doesn't need you. This is not La Scala or Covent Garden. This is strict metronomic playing, okay? surprise. This is this A major cadence. It's not even a cadence. He's just moving to A major all of a sudden. It's a mediant relationship. Save it for the last two notes, the surprise. All right, start again, please. If any part of this piece has to be in absolute tempo, it's right here. Okay?
Mhm.
Melika, excuse me. You're inflecting too much. It has to be just metronomic. Don't put yourself in any of this yet, because you're going to need a ton of emotion right here at the end. In this section, you're going to need to explode emotionally. Save it. Even the slightest, I don't know how to put the slightest affectation is going to take away from the strictness of this piece. It's very, very well constructed. It's the Deutsche Organisation, yeah? That's Chopin. He's a German composer who is from Poland with a French father. The structure is entirely German and the Einstellung is absolut Deutsch. Okay, so back to this, please. And metronomisch, yeah? Here, pianissimo, here's where you can be expressive. Take a tiny bit of time and bring the volume down. Just
But
the
I
last
need
two
that
notes.
A. I need that A very much because it's
Which one? Absolutely, but before that, yeah. But before then, the last two notes of the preceding bar, take a tiny bit of time so that the new key becomes a surprise. Melika, hang on. Why this declamation? This is, okay, it's a kind of recitative, but not too much. It's übertrieben, yeah? That's not what's so interesting. What is going to be interesting are the harmonic changes that are coming in a few seconds. Don't give it away, because when you're insisting on it, you're setting the listener up to expect something dramatic. Whereas the changes of harmony are very subtle, and the quieter they are, the more dramatic they become, because the listener has to listen harder. All right, so this is now. This chromaticism is very interesting. He sets it up with this trill. You can be a little bit espressivo here. Okay, once again, please, from here. But okay, Melika, hang on.
Do you want to say something?
Yes, please. Yeah. Okay, it's generally sounding very good, but you have to keep the tempo. Nicht eilen und nicht schleppen. All right, you have to keep it absolutely exact, or it's not going to make any sense. This here. Watch. I keep saying this, how many composers in history can make sense and melody and logic out of a semitone? And he does it all the time. You know, I give this as a classic example. In the B major nocturne, no other composer can make a melody out of a chromatic scale than Chopin. All right? So here, insist a little bit so that we hear the major seventh. He also writes, look in your score, sfogato. He only used this word twice. In his whole life, he used this twice. In the F minor concerto, as a matter of fact. But here, you know what sfogato is? Beklemmt or verklemmt.
Yeah.
Étouffé. All right? Here you can do a bit of a singer's recitative. He was a great opera lover, as you know. So he's got all these factors combined and condensed in this extraordinary piece. Because this is a resolution. And this whole passage, which is essentially an extended dominant 13th chord, this whole passage reconciles all the chromaticism of the last two bars. The last bit of chromaticism before we get into the recit. etc. Okay? Try it again, please. From there. No. Accent on the downbeat. You have to keep this rhythmic focus or you're going to lose the structure. You have to think forward, think through. Your Melika, you're obsessing on the individual beats. Look at the whole bar and look at the 2 bars in one, if you can. You cannot belabor this. It's complex enough without you making it more complicated. Keep it simple. Keep yourself out of it. Too much. Don't stagger it. If he writes sfogato, just look at the imagery of sfogato, choked. How long can you choke before you die? All right? It's very simple. He just wants the expression, the image of choking. Don't kill the piece by choking off the air, which means the rhythm. This is why Balsam was saying this is the most difficult piece, and I understand it more and more as I get older. It's the control of the rubato in this piece which is the most difficult thing. The control of rubato in Chopin is very, very complicated everywhere. But in this particular piece, because it's a barcarola, because it has to move constantly with this, basso ostinato. Slight diminuendo. The semitone cadences are resolutions, right? It's once again, please, from accent the downbeats, not. Melika, what I'm hearing is, maybe it's the audio, I'm hearing, right? I'm hearing.
Well, that's logical for me. You're hearing right. Because he wrote little decrescendo and it is line on down.
But it doesn't mean you have to accent the rhythm.
Well, I'm not accenting it.
The rhythm is being broken up by this. You can have a decrescendo, but keep the rhythm.
I mean, maybe it's not coming through very well, but.
All right, once again. All right. Okay, of course it's generally good, but there are some basic issues to address here. Your collando is way too soon. If you look at right here, he's forte for the next four measures, and then he writes crescendo. Then he says sempre forte, meaning keep it there and more. And this is where, as I was saying a while before, this is where you have to pile it on. And this is why the più mosso cannot be too fast. We're going back to measure 93. You cannot make this too fast because it's just going to kill what's coming. You have to keep the right tempo for the right expression, level of expression. Right? He's got fortissimo there, forte at the next big climax, and then he says sempre forte, which probably is going to be more fortissimo because he wants this huge crescendo the bar before. And when you get to this here, look, I mean, just objectively, it's horrible sounding. It's just aggressive, it's violent. And you have to save the energy and the sound level for this particular point. And here you can begin your collando. And only here. But when he says sforzando here, yes, but not too much. And all of a sudden, the collando begins, and there you can be more expressive, but in tempo. Sorry. I don't really observe the sforzando too much because it's more emotional than aggressive. It sounds ridiculous after all this. The sforzando is here. This German sixth chord going to 1, not to 4. It's going to 1. Sorry. Now you made way too much of the left hand here. This is a classic problem, and everyone argues about this. Which is the important hand? Which is the important melody? Right? They are equal. Do not give priority to the left hand. It will be heard, simply because the melody is in the thumb, and the thumb will win out over the lower two notes. It's quite simple, and keep it simple. Sorry, I haven't played this for 10 years at least. Here, more here than before. And this is very important to bring out because of it's a rappel, it's a rückblick on this. So, not too much at the end, just right. I even don't like the ending. I think he could have done something a bit better. It sounds a bit flaky for me. After all this emotional hullabaloo, it's like Spanish ole ole. It's a bit crazy. You remember, this is a human being, a genius of a human being, but he still made mistakes. It needs discipline. It's fine. You're going to play it beautifully. And you're playing it very, very well now, but it needs this classic Melika disciplining. You know, you have to watch sound levels. We are in a bad situation because of audio, and you need a good piano to play on. I hope we can do it this summer. But watch out for these, for the sound levels, and watch out for what he writes. And check 10 editions. Don't look at one edition of this. I'll send you a list of the many different editions to look at. I'm looking now at Paderewski, but the one I like the most is the one by Alfred Cortot, because he gives his personal comments. Look at the Polish edition, the first edition, the autograph if you can get a hold of it, and the Cortot is very insightful. But remember, in Chopin, structure, 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 and he becomes more and more sophisticated with structure and with especially linear development and motivic development in the Wagnerian sense. Remember, Wagner learned from Chopin. Wagner was in Paris 4 times. He must have met Chopin. He certainly heard Chopin's concerts and his music. Right? So Tristan and Isolde, the leitmotif technique, comes right out of Chopin. And I explained to Denzel when he did the nocturne. The Unendliche Melodie, right? This is another Unendliche Melodie, this one. And you just have to get the sound levels organized, but don't arrest the tempo, and respect the technical, compositional, what we call the structural components, the foundation, which is... And then at the end... The semitone, always in Chopin. It's not just that it's espressivo here, he's always doing this everywhere. And Berlioz, as I said to Denzel a few months ago, Berlioz wrote about Chopin, he was always dying. He was always dying. You have to keep this in mind. And this is one of his happiest expressions at the end. All the time, because your semitone melodic component becomes the foundation of the chromaticism in the left. It's all so integrated. Pretend that try and orchestrate it if you have time. It would be extraordinary to try and orchestrate this piece. It's pure piano. But imagine which instruments would be doing what, and how difficult it would be for a conductor to tell the brass to play more here, or the winds to play less here, or the strings to play staccato or mezzo or portamento. It's an extremely complicated piece. It's not like Beethoven or even Schumann, where you can, quite normally orchestrate. Anything in Schumann you can orchestrate without any problem. But this, it's so piano-oriented. It's just pure piano. But think of the colors. Think of all the colors you need, because of all the pieces of Chopin, of every single piece I know, and I know all of Chopin, this is the most difficult to gradate colors. That's why Balsam said it's the most difficult single piece he wrote. Much more than any of the others. I mean, you can talk to me about all the etudes, and some of them are very painful, and some of them are, they're very expressive. They are, but nothing comes close to this thing. Nothing. How are we doing for time?
45.
What?
It's 9:45.
9:45. We can keep going. Start it again.
Can I have?
Sure.
Because I have one more idea. Melika, can we try one more thing with the phone? So if you are in the meeting itself, right, and you just, where you below see the buttons, like, if you just tap on the meeting, so you don't go to settings, but in the meeting yourself on the bottom you have a more button, is that right?
What do I have?
Yeah, so if you on the bottom of the meeting, you have a row of
Yes,
buttons.
and I go to settings.
No, if you go to more,
More meetings.
so do you have more on the very right with the three dots?
No. Meeting. More. Just a second. Let me check. Hautton. Reaktion. Seitenverhältnis. Sicherer Modus. No. I don't have more.
Yeah, because this original tone, we have to switch it on in the settings and then in the meeting. So I'm looking for this second location.
Original tone. Just a second.
Okay, if you don't find it, I don't want to interrupt the flow anymore. It was just one more idea.
No, it's just mit Originalton. That is everything I see.
Okay. So
Und
it's
es steht, es wird ohne Rauschunterdrückung übertragen. Hiermit
Okay,
können Sie
ja.
bei einem Meeting den Originalton ein- oder ausschalten. Es wird ohne Rauschunterdrückung übertragen.
Genau. Es sagt, dass man dann im Meeting es ein- und ausschalten kann. Das heißt, es muss noch eine andere Stelle geben, an der man den Originalton ein- und ausschalten kann. Im Meeting selber, nicht in den Settings.
Und Sie wollen, dass es eingeschaltet oder ausgeschaltet ist?
Eingeschaltet.
Nein, es ist eingeschaltet, gut. Ja, also weiß ich nicht, was passiert. Vielleicht ist wegen meinem Handy, vielleicht wegen der Internetverbindung, weiß ich nicht. Manchmal ist besser, manchmal schlechter.
Gut, probieren wir es.
Okay, bist du jetzt Schumann oder willst Chopin fortsetzen?
Wie Sie wollen. Mir ist das
Okay.
ziemlich egal. Also.
Ich glaube, dass wir mit Chopin bleiben werden. Yeah, we should stay with Chopin. Okay? Now, I'm sorry to be so pedantic and so demanding about this, but I'll tell you another balsam anecdote. When I wanted to play Opus 110, Beethoven, with him, and he said, I will only teach it to you if you do absolutely everything I say and never talk back. Because I used to talk back to him a lot and discuss the way we were doing, which is, I think, very healthy. But in certain pieces, one has to be a bit of a demagogue. This is one of my demagogic pieces, okay? So this word I have to be quite demagogic. You can take it or leave it. But, the problem with this particular piece by Chopin is that everybody knows it, serious pianists, of course, and everybody loves it, and everybody thinks that he has the magic formula. Everybody thinks that he is an expert on Chopin. I have never, if you meet a pianist who doesn't think he's an expert on Chopin, introduce me to him, because that's a rare species, all right? They may play Chopin like, I want to use bad words, but they think they're the expert. I have a very close friend, one of my closest friends, a name that you will recognize, who plays Chopin in a way that I would never dare play in public. And I don't play Liszt in public because I know that I'm not a good Liszt player. And when we were about your age, we made a pact that I would never play Liszt in public on the condition that he never play Chopin in public. All right? But the problem was that I held true to that pact, except for once I played the Liszt Sonata 25 times in one season, and that was the end of it for me. I learned it to be able to teach it. But it's not my kind of thing. I played it well, but it's not my thing, Liszt, at all. Chopin is. But for him, it's the opposite. He can play Liszt absolutely brilliantly, but Chopin, no. So he broke that pact. So what I'm saying is, everyone has his sense of authority on Chopin. Not so much Liszt. But in terms of interpretation, everybody adores Chopin. The milkman knows some Chopin. The garbage man knows some Chopin. Everybody knows Chopin. And everybody loves Chopin. And for that reason, they think that they understand Chopin. Now, when you come to pianists, It takes years for us to build our technique, to be able to play properly, to understand things. Then Chopin, of course, everybody has his opinion on Chopin. Everybody thinks that he owns Chopin. So you're in good company if you're arguing about how you feel Chopin should be played. There's a certain militancy here, and you're right, because it's all so subjective and so verinnerlicht, so deep, that how can anyone disagree with you, because this is how you feel about Chopin. Hello, Armin. We're fighting about Chopin.
Hello.
All right.
Hi.
Yeah. Everyone believes he has the magic formula. Everyone. And in many cases, there are some good formulas for Chopin. But the strictest way, the best way to get the magic recipe is to let him speak more than through you, but not because of you. Put as little of yourself in Chopin as possible. And again here, and being very serious now, the most difficult thing in the barcarolle are sound levels. And not to give in to sentimentality, because this is almost sacred music. I mean, when I tell you that he's a German composer, I'm very serious. His teacher was German, right? He learned very strict compositional principles. He adored Mozart and Bach. What could be more strict than Bach? Right? I mean, this is the man's mind. And when I point out these structural things, like, this is not just a chromatic scale. This is the foundation of the entire piece. Imagine this is in the orchestra. You would have, of course, strings, French horns, flute, taken over by oboe, taken over by clarinet, violin. Here is where you can do some espressivo. Think singer now. Think a recitative in the opera. Just these notes. Rarely, but here you can. All these semitones are part of this extraordinary structure. You see, and when he does this, this is a culmination of this extrapolation of semitone relationships. But Chopin is a scientist. He is a real scientist of sound and harmony, as we have never had before. I mean, as I told you, everybody, early as we started these classes, who could have imagined in the 1830s, or the late 1820s, 30s, this? A piece that begins like this. They thought he was possessed by the devil when he played, I think, in Stuttgart. The newspapers were saying he was possessed by the devil. Normally you want to hear this, right? But this is not, we're very far from this. And he builds it up so that you think your ear is expecting a C major cadence. But no, it's modal. He's a genius with semitones. He's the only one, I keep saying, who can make a melody out of a chromatic scale. So here, this is when he writes sfogato, choked up, and this beautiful resolution, because we don't know where he's going with this thing. Remember this, in this very intimate sfogato section, at the final climax becomes this. sorry for the missing notes. You see what he's doing here. Be very, very analytical and be as objective as possible, because the subjectivity is not missing in Chopin. He's entirely subjective in his feelings, but he's entirely objective in his construction, which is why he remains such a mystery. And of all the, I keep saying this all the time, even when I write, if I'm no longer writing much musicology articles, but when I was saying these things, Chopin is the most misunderstood composer of the great classics, because first of all, the East, the part of Europe where you two come from, we couldn't get to the archives, we couldn't get to meet our colleagues because of the Iron Curtain problems, right? Then they didn't have the research techniques or the research traditions that we had, and that we didn't know what they had. So all this is coming out, and we have a fantastic Chopin Institute in Warsaw now. And this is since 1990 that this has grown miraculously in 30 years. But we misunderstand Chopin because of all the misperceptions of traditional musicology as opposed to ethnomusicology, because he was a Pole. And we have the problems here with all these cultural fusions, the French element, the German structure, the internationalism. You know, Baccarat is essentially something coming out of Venice. You know, they all attribute this to a kind of reminiscence of a Venetian gauntlet. Fine, but this is a very German structured piece, and not ever too much espressivo at the beginning, Melika, because it's going to kill everything that derives from here on. To belabor that too much. You want to respect it by giving it a bit of air, but not too much. Becomes at the end, right? Again, the problem is the condensation of all these structural things, one on top of the other. We have 8 minutes. 8 minutes to play this piece, which Wagner would have strung out structurally into 4 hours with all these elements. Think about it. I mean, when I say, I have a very strong opinion on this, but Wagner, I don't think, would have been able to develop his unendliche Melodie concept in his opera without this thinking. Okay. Once more, before we go to, who's next, Denzel or Armen?
Would it be all right if I go next?
Armen, is it okay? We had a timing problem. Can Denzel go next?
I asked about to be at 4 o'clock in my time, if that's possible.
Yeah, there was a timing issue. I'm sorry. Denzel, can you hang on?
I think I can wait, but
okay.
I might get apprehended. Right now it's 10 p.m. in the Philippines.
Oh, take a nap if you need. Meet us back later. Sorry. All right.
Thank you.
Melika started just a few minutes with Melika, 3-4 minutes. Start it again, please, Melika.
From the beginning or just
From
the
the
theme?
beginning. From the beginning. No. Sorry. No, it's just already too dramatic. This is dramatic enough, which is why you should give these two, the lower C sharp and the chord, a lot of emphasis and build down from there. And in tempo. Don't fool around with it. It speaks for itself, and believe me, it does not need you. All right? more on the, of course more. This is your pedal point. That's as much ritardando as you need. Do you need more on the C sharp? One pedal for each.
Okay.
And take time here. Malika? No, Malika, please. Metronomic. You're putting much too much into this. The interest is here, not down there. Play it with two hands and it'll make sense. Once again. And really, the beginning, please. What are you afraid of? It's not going to bite. Much better. But hang on. This is, we're going to get this right. If we get one thing right today, this will be it. This is a huge declamation. I'm sure you know almost everything Chopin wrote, even at your young age. But did he ever write anything like this? No. And did he ever write anything that resembled anything he ever wrote? No. But just look, the scherzi are all completely different. This is about as close to as we get. Then we have... All right? Everything in Chopin is so original. But when he writes something as declamatory as this, it has to be declamatory, otherwise it doesn't make sense. And now, it gives you a framework, a sound frame from which to work down. And remember that this is, sforzando, fortissimo, whatever you want to call it. But the end of this piece is as fortissimo as possible. And I mean that in the emotional sense. Dramatic, and all of a sudden this incredible tenderness resolving it. So this huge expression is a balance point for this. This is what I call the emotional architecture of the piece. Keep this in mind. It's not loud enough. It's not forceful enough.
Sorry?
You're not giving it enough. Come from higher up. Von oben spielen. You know how Rubinstein used to do this? When he would sometimes begin the second half of a program with this piece. And he would walk on stage, and before sitting down, he would play the C sharp and then sit down. He actually did that. He would walk on stage, come. He did this at least once or twice. Okay, so make this as dramatic as you like. No! No, it's too slow. No, sorry.
Sorry?
It's too slow and it's too self-indulgent. I'm sorry. For me.
What is your...
How do you say self-indulgent in German, Stefan?
Yeah, I understand what it means. I just didn't hear you.
It's just too self-indulgent. I keep telling everybody, he doesn't need you or me.
But
He
I'm
doesn't
playing
need
the same
us.
tempo. I don't really understand.
It's also a bit
what
too
is the
slow. There's nothing expressive about this. This is just functional. Don't express this. It does it on its own. This is what's important. And remember, he comes in on the second beat, not the first. So we finally have a cadence. We have an absolute tonic. We hear the tonic, finally. Because with Chopin, you never know where the tonic is going to come. I mean, of course we know. But everything is so original that it comes almost as a shock when it's simple. All right?
Yeah.
But please, here you can be dramatic. Here you can take some more time. But not here anymore. It's over. A little bit here. And in tempo. Pretend that you're in a gondola. This is supposed to emulate a gondola. Is anyone rowing a gondola going to be sentimental? Pretend you're a gondola player, a gondola driver. There's nothing sentimental about doing this. I love to row, but there's nothing sentimental about rowing. Especially if you're competing, right? In other words, it has to be very simple from the beginning. It has to be as simple as possible, as long as possible. Because what's coming is so dramatic that you're going to kill it if you put anything more than what's minimally necessary. And that includes what is so, how espressivo about a major scale, about this... There's nothing dramatic about this. There's nothing terribly original
You
about
never
it.
know what do you hear that I play, because I really play it calmly. I don't do anything. Maybe it's just about the recording.
Two things.
Can you just play how you hear I play?
I'm hearing, at first it's a bit too slow. Just simple notes. I'm hearing rubati, tiny rubati, which are unnecessary. You don't need any of it. Believe me, this becomes an affectation after a while. And there's plenty of room in this piece for espressivo, especially, here.
Okay.
This is the only place where you can really stretch the tempo in this recitative. The only place, because he writes sfogata. even I did too much there. Those can be a little bit espressivo because they are structural as well as melodic. That semitone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's good. It's going to be very good. Right? But we have to keep working on it.
Okay.
All right. We've been talking about this summer academy in France, and Emma and I are starting to work on it. So we'll let you know next summer for 2 weeks in France.
Yes.
All right. There will be a maximum of 4 of you, and we'll see about financing and all this. So we're starting to work on this right now.
Yeah, let us know. The idea sounds wonderful, really.
Yeah, and it's. I also have an idea for where to do this in a beautiful castle, not far from where the concert's in a beautiful Renaissance castle that's just been renovated. Okay, thank you, Melika, and let's keep in touch, and we'll do this one again.
Yes, I also need to go because it's my time. My time is over in this room, so I
Okay,
better.
take care of yourself, and
Yes, you too. Good luck.
I've been tough with you. I've been tough with you, but you know it's well meant. And as I keep saying, this is the most difficult. I agree with Balsam. This is the most difficult piece Chopin wrote. Period. So you're doing it's a good start, a very good start, and you'll play this all your life. But get those foundations, the interpretative foundations, under control right now.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so now, Armen, Beethoven.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry for my digital piano. It's not real, it's a digital piano. And I hope it will sound not so bad.
Look, Beethoven rarely loses. So. Okay. Whenever you're ready. Man, also for everybody here, everybody watching, please tell the public who you are. Tell us about you.
Okay, my name is Armen. I'm living, studying, and working in Bonn in Germany. I'm from Armenia, and I'm going to play 32 variations of Beethoven.
And he's playing a concert for the Harvard Club of Germany in Frankfurt pretty soon.
Exactly.
At Steinway House on December 2nd. All right, let's go. Can we do something with the audio?
To try the same thing.
Armen, we have an audio problem. Dr. Frank can help you out here. This is Valentin's father.
Yes, I mean,
Hi.
are you on a computer or
It's iPad.
iPad? So, can you go into the audio setting?
It's the original sound already.
You have the original sound on.
It's... You're good
so,
or?
so it displays original sound on already.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then I don't know what to do. That's about it.
Okay, we do what we can.
Good.
All right. That's also the digital piano, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. It's because of my
No,
neighbors.
it's okay. All right, andiamo.
It's better now because I did a little bit higher the sound. It's okay?
Yeah,
Good. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. You have a pencil with
It's very
you?
difficult to play on the digital piano. I'm so sorry. It's
You don't
not
have to
the same
apologize.
feeling.
Yeah, no. You did a wonderful job with the limitations. Do you have a pencil? Good. All right. The main thing here is to keep the tempo as steady as possible, and you're doing it for the most part. The second problem for me is the length of the staccati, and they are a bit too uniform, because this piece is quite monochromatic. It's theme and variations, after all. There are there are 32 of these variations, but they can be even more colorful depending on the kind of staccati you use. Because this thing, it's ingrained into the mind, from the minute we hear it. It's a question of the delicacy at times and the harshness at others, and everything in between. All right. Also, at times, there's too much pedal. Remember, Beethoven's piano is not this one. He didn't hear it the same way we're hearing it. So, at times, we have to compensate. Also,
This is my pedal. I'm sorry. This is my pedal.
Oh my God.
I can't control it. I'm sorry. This is digital.
All right. Okay. We'll do the best we can. Start again, please, and I'll interrupt you this time. Some people make a phrase out of this. I don't. I don't think there should be any. It's not written in the score. Staccati all the way. I think it's more effective with no staccato, with no phrasing at all. The phrasing is implicit. You just don't need legato phrasing. It makes it much more dramatic. It's like in this concerto. Many people, it's wrong. It's a question of drama. And C minor, for me, is Beethoven's key. I don't think he was more at home in any other key than C minor and possibly A flat.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, and especially, all right, but C minor, I mean, everything is C minor in Beethoven. All right, look, start again, please, Armen. Remember the staccato thing. Staccato.
I even played with the same finger.
Good. Keep the tempo. There's no need to be more dramatic than it already is.
Mm-hmm.
Piano, if you're going to have all of these notes, they are going to produce more sound naturally. So start pianissimo. Start pianissimo. The left hand, the chords are a bit too short.
Mm-hmm.
Watch out that they're not too short. Portamento, there's no staccato marking. More on the sforzando. Principle of the chords here. The same principle, not too short. All right? Wait. Go right into it. No retardando and don't wait. Go right into it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Left hand, you need more on the left hand. More porte. Maybe it's the piano, but it. Now watch here. Don't give in to sentimentality. It's very metronomic.
In the end?
There is nothing sentimental about this piece.
That's the last bar. You mean the last bar? Yeah?
Yeah, but generally. A tiny bit more noise, more sound. But don't express anything. Don't put yourself into this. It's all built in. All right? So take variation 4 again, please.
Continue?
Yep, please. That's good. 1 second. Don't make life too difficult for yourself. All right? Take time here. This is he's pulling his hair out of his head. This is very melodramatic. The piece is quite melodramatic, not dramatic. It's melodramatic. It's like an opera buffa. All right? Think opera buffa. It's a very stagey play. It's like a play. In other words, 3 times forzando, and then go. No. Equal chords, maybe even a crescendo until the 4th one. Right. Don't be afraid of it. It's not afraid of you. No pedal. No pedal here. It doesn't need pedal. It needs staccato, no pedal. Okay, good. Very good. But remember, in this whole variation, no pedal at all. And when you get to the final one, emphasize the C and a tiny Luftpause before you start again. Respect that rest. You have to respect that 8th rest. Okay. Staccato. next? Variation 7.
Ah, sorry.
No. Why so sentimental? It's all built in. It's just piano, and it's a very stupid variation. It's fun. It has its purpose. It's just a descending scale. It's nothing more exotic than that. And because it's nothing more exotic, you don't have to add anything to it. It's building up into the next one. All right? Okay, simple, please. It's too sentimental. The only place where you can be at all expressive is where you have your sforzando, is in measure 6 of this variation.
I would like to do in the last bar. I have the mark piano, and actually, I would like to do here some kind of subito piano, something like.
No. He writes his sforzando from the sforzando. He has a diminuendo. Don't add to it. It has to be very natural. You have to respect the phrasing, but don't exaggerate. That's all. The point is that if you give too much here, what are you going to do later on? You need more sentimentality, sentiment, emotion, whatever you want later.
The second time it's almost the same, and I'm not doing this subito. The next time is I'm just continuing to the end. The second time, this is some kind of difference.
Okay, I mean, all right, but just don't exaggerate. Okay.
May I start again from?
Yes, please.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You should not make too much of this. What you're doing is a subito piano, and he doesn't want that. He has a diminuendo. He's just telling you to be quiet. Why are you're making your audience quite afraid? A subito piano, it means you're arresting the audience because it's sudden. There's nothing sudden about this. It's all built in. It's a diminuendo that ends in piano. Period. To be careful. All right, go on. Variation 8. Good. Now, Armen, here. This is where it begins to get really interesting. In terms of texture and in terms of the developmental variation here. Take more time between variation 8 and variation 9. More time. And pianissimo, as softly as you can here, so we can get this misterioso, this 2 against 3. He writes espressivo, all right? Pianissimo. And make sure we hear all 3 systems, all 3 voices. No, why did you take off? He doesn't say to He doesn't say to get softer. You're still feeling.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Now. Okay? All of a sudden you're playing Chopin. All of a sudden you start to play Chopin. the second to last measure. It got a bit too expressive. Just because he writes piano doesn't mean you have to get expressive. There's nothing expressive about this. Period. Just play through it. The beginning was really wonderful. But when you get to the second to last measure, keep going. Keep going. He doesn't need you. You need him. All right? He does not need too much of you. He knows what he's doing more than you do. Remember that. Start variation 9 again, please. Very good. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Very, very good. But please work out the clarity in the last three measures here, in the higher register, because sometimes the notes are not even. High fingers, very high fingers, right? And remember, he didn't have much of an orchestra to work with at the time. But if this were in the violin section, it would be one bow for each note, right? You know, so it's almost staccato here. Almost staccato. It has to be as much as you can martellato. All right, now. This is, you know, in German the word would be Krönung. This is the crowning glory. This is the Pièce de Picardie, the Picardy third. Suddenly, all of a sudden, this glorious sunlight coming through, a chorale. So take time here. Here you can take a little bit more time. Sorry. Etc. But take time, but not too espressivo. Remember, it's a chorale. Okay, variation 12, please. It's too slow. It's too slow. Can you sing this in church? Would you imagine something so slow to be sung in church? No. No, you need a sforzando there. You're forgetting your sforzando here.
I didn't. I just don't want to do here. This is some kind of sforzando is like not doing this. Something like
Well, okay, sometimes we attribute sforzando to espressivo, but you need something. Sorry. All right, it will be fine. Go on. Pianissimo, pianissimo.
sorry.
Pianissimo all the way through this. A little bit more on the left hand, but pianissimo. No. This has to be a completely natural outcrop of variation 13. You're speeding up and you're gaining too much sound. Keep the same tone level and keep the same tempo. Very leggero and very, very strict. Leggero. Very good at the end. The tapering off was really elegant. That was very well done. But and the good progress. But keep this variation pianissimo as much as you can, and very, very simple. Very simple. Okay. At the end here, a Luftpause before you get into this opera buffa. The next one is real opera buffa. Think Leporello in Don Giovanni. Very, very funny thing here. But make it really operatic. Okay, variation 14.
14 or 15?
14, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very good. He says dolce, but be even more deliberate. It has to be funny, this one. Da 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 da. Think of it as a German drinking song, a beer song. All right? It has to be really funny, this thing. Even if it's dolce, a little bit more oomph to it. Okay, once again, 15. Accent the offbeats. Accent the the offbeats, the tide notes, the suspensions.
Oh, okay, yeah.
what will give you the right effect is by accenting the bass. Think bassoon here. Just take the first couple of measures, or take 15 again. Don't forget the diminuendo, 2 bars before the end. Don't lose the diminuendo.
I don't have it. Okay.
I have it in my edition here. Okay, variation 16. Okay, now everyone speeds up here. Don't speed up. Everyone, for some reason, everybody speeds up here. If anything, slow it down a tiny bit. This is a variation on a variation.
Yeah.
It's just a variation on a variation. It's the same Stimmung, yeah? Okay, now, before you get to the C minor, back to C minor, another Luftpause, please. No, this is not Chopin. This is not Chopin. Just play notes. It's too much. It's doppelgemoppelt, it's übertrieben. Just play notes. It's enough. It's different enough from what you just had. The reason why I said just play notes and don't be too expressive is because naturally and correctly you did get espressivo 3 measures before the end with this. Don't make any kind of ritardando. Go right into variation 18 dramatically. From variation 18 to variation 19, no pause at all. Jump into it. Attacca. Don't slow down. You'd slow down a tiny bit and marcato, all this, staccatissimo. You're a bit faster. Keep the same tempo. all. And here at the very end, dramatic, these two. Melodramatic, rather. You're rushing. You're rushing. And this is Beethoven sticking his tongue out at you. All right? Right, almost. But no pedal at all. And staccatissimo, the whole thing. Staccatissimo, because in variation 23 you will need a lot of legato.
Mm-hmm.
And the bass in variation 23, portamento. Not staccato and not, of course you can't do it legato. And one pedal for each eighth note. Okay? So, variation 23, please.
This is because of the piano.
Oh,
I didn't want
thought
to.
it wouldn't be. Just
Sorry.
play through it. Just play through it. No espressivo until the second beat of measure 6. Okay, once again. Except, hold the fourth one. Hold these staccato and this one mezzo staccato.
Mm-hmm. This.
And don't wait between 23 and 24. Take time at the end of that one. And a Luftpause before variation 28. But a little bit more between. A bit more Luftpause between this and this. Maybe a bit too much, but go on. it's too complicated. Just play, it's no change in tempo really. You can play it a tiny bit slower, but don't exaggerate it. It's just another chorale, but in C minor this time. Now, one pedal for each because it's portamento. He writes in the portamento this time. Don't belabor it. Be careful here what we want. What we really want here is the pianissimo, the portamenti in equal tempo, and then you have your crescendo at measure 5. You need to hear this. Remember, this is very interesting here because in the last chord, the last notes of the variation 30. We don't have the third. This is missing. Right now, and after this, a nice little Luftpause, but a really good one. Because variations 31 and 32 are really one variation. He should have written this as 31 variations in C minor and not 32. Exactly. All right? But even he can make a mistake. All right, good. Now, variation 30 until the end. And remember, 31 and 32 is really one. Why you need an accent, especially here, is because when you start all these scales and broken chords in the left hand from 31 into 32, the tempo and the metric structure may be lost for the audience. You have to be very clear. You will hear the tempo and you will feel the structure, but you have to be very, very precise with the last two variations. So set it up by being extremely precise in variation 30. Okay? But that's fine. Not too much on the down. So we hear the bar. Please, do not get sentimental about a C minor scale. There is nothing sentimental about this at all. It's just a damp scale. You know, this is not... It's just a damp scale. The whole last two variations are completely unemotional and entirely dynamic. Okay? All right, this is all very, very fine, but when you're getting to right before the melody comes, the theme comes back in the left hand, make a very good diminuendo to pianissimo. You need to get right to pianissimo. The right hand, when you have the, has to be much quieter than you're doing it, and this is what counts. Because this is the last time we hear it. Okay, excellent. But again, too much espressivo here. There you can be more expressivo, but save it for this. Don't give it away. Now here, left hand is much more important than this. There's much too much of this.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I liked very much this idea of it sounds great.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. All right, it's going to be wonderful. We'll have to play it again. We'll do it again sometime soon. And now poor Denzel is waiting for us. This has been really good, Armand. And
Thank you very much, Professor Bempechat. Thank you very much for your time and for your lesson.
Bye-bye. Okay,
Bye-bye.
Denzel, thank you for being so patient. Bravo, Armand, bravo.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Denzel, so let's do this Chopin. Do you want to do the first movement or the second movement?
Oh, I'd love to do both if you can. But I'd love to focus on the first movement.
Okay, fine. Let me get the score here. Where did it go? It is here, I promise. All right, so. 1 second to let me get some coffee. Stefan, do you want some coffee?
No, thank you.
Don't water anything.
I'm good.
No, I'm good as well.
All right, let's go. I can tell. All right. It's very, very good, but it's there's a lot to be done here, and I think what I would like to do is I've made, of course, comments in my score, which I would like to email you. I will
Yes.
write all this out. The main thing to remember here is that this is, you have to envision this entire concerto as, especially the first two movements, as kind of a dream going into a nightmare and coming back to a dream setting. All right, it's an extremely complicated piece psychologically. The tempo is, as you say, it needs rubati, and you have to bring them back together again. He has to expand and retract the tempi because it's just so expressive. The difficulty is in keeping the orchestra under control. They're trying to keep you under control, and you have to keep them under control. So you have to constantly watch the conductor, especially when you need to expand the tempo. And there is so much room for it because of all of these passages in grace notes. The very quick passages, as the Italians would say, the fiorituri, the flourishes. Remember here, take time here. It's very declamatory, and you can be very, very declamatory here. But once you get here, absolute tempo. As much as you can, wherever you can, keep the tempo absolute, because you're going to need rubato. So spare us the excessive rubatos, okay?
Yes.
Now, I have not played this since I was your age, so don't expect any miracles from me. I just know what I'm doing interpretatively. I haven't played this since I was, 23 years old or something. Remember that all of the flourishes all of these things are melody, each and every one of them, which is why you took a good tempo, not too fast, because you need to make all of these extremely expressive. Now, you can make them even more expressive. Look, for example, at this. I don't have measure numbers here. This is one phrase, and another phrase begins here, and you have a 16th note rest, a 32nd note rest. Remember also, a general concept in Chopin, he's a dance composer. How many forms of dances do we have in Chopin? We have mazurkas, we have waltzes, polonaises. Yeah, you see, and here we have evocations of this. Now, in this particular, never forget my semitone lecture in Chopin.
Yes.
Here, you can push the tempo a tiny bit in this middle bar. Here you can take it back. This is a rubato system. And pull back here. So we can hear all of these chromaticisms. Sorry. So you have all these groupings of 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and 7,
Yes.
which is extremely intense. And then you get to this section, my letter C, which is very regular. All the writing is incredibly regular in 16th notes. It's complete 16th notes here. So what he wants you to do is, in a sense, heighten the intensity. He is heightening the intensity, but here, keep this quiet. I'm sorry, it's been so many years, all right? And when he writes piano, he means piano and leggero also in this passage. He's building you up to a forte here. This cadence here, sit on it and take a Luftpause, a little break, and espressivo. When you have your piano here, this becomes more espressivo, and be extremely deliberate with this thing, absolutely deliberate. When you have this crescendo here to sforzando, when you get up to here, this very high F sharp, what do you think he's doing here? This is the devil's interval, as it's called, the diminished fifth. So this is what he's building up to, this demonic interval. So we have to really dig into it, all right? Now, and he reconciles the whole process 2 measures later with this very tender. Sorry. It's this tenderness is always, reconciling all this hostility that's going on before it, this tension, right? Be very careful of it and be very lyrical here, much more lyrical than you're doing. Now, this is what he's building up to. Remember this famous semitone of his that he's always using and pitting it against the whole tone, like in Melika's Barco. It's all over the place. And he writes poco ritenuto, no more than that, just a little bit. Save it right here. And then he writes 3 different things on this D flat at letter D. 3 different things. He writes a tempo. He writes con anima, which is against a tempo. Con anima is fighting against a tempo, all right? This man's crazy, all right? And he's writing espressivo marking. This is a decrescendo or espressivo marking as these, according to the sources, but we don't really know what's going on here. There are so many editions. Too much out of this. Don't be too espressivo. We need more here. This we need more of this grace note. Watch the conductor, and you have to tell the conductor what to do. You must watch on YouTube this extraordinary performance of Rubinstein when he was something like 90, with Zubin Mehta conducting. It's unbelievable the mastery he has over the orchestra. And of any concerto that I have ever known, in this particular concerto, the pianist must be the conductor. You must view the conductor as your slave. Right? Don't let the conductor tell you what to do. He's there just to do this and to look pretty in this piece. You know, and the first concerto is a different story. It's very regular.
Yes.
This is a completely different ballpark. This is, you know, we need the orchestra because it sounds very nice. But for the most part, we don't.
Yeah.
You know, they absolutely have to follow you 1,000,000% here. All right, now, let's go to this section right before. Now, everybody tends to make a great big deal out of this. Don't. It's too much.
Okay.
Right. This is the big point here. This modality, because he's going right from. He's not doing. He's doing. This is the high point. This is 5 of 5. And again here, modality. This is like he's going into a completely different dream here. It's like a fairyland. You know, these colors is what you have to bring out here. So please, Denzel, start again. Now, when he writes here, sempre più stretto, it means push, 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 but not too much. You remember, you have to retain some of the tempo, but push. And here you can get back to tempo. When he writes here, con duolo, it means with pain. Have you ever heard of a composer writing this? With pain. And going up. There's your famous falling semitone.
Yes.
I take it in the right hand. Again, on the beat. And shorter. Now you can make your conductor very happy and play in tempo. Okay?
Yes.
But the problem will come, of course, when you get to this. You will need more time here. And you just have to look at him. Just keep looking at him. And just tell him to follow you by your eyes. Tell him. I have had enough experience with inexperienced conductors to know when to put my foot down, all right? Now, otherwise, this is absolutely fine, the next section. In the middle section here, what? Take all the time you need and follow him, you know, almost as if you're cadencing and walking off stage. And then the orchestra will pick up then. And then again. So these are recitatives, but then you begin your virtuoso section here. This was all very, very good. But remember, the tempo is the main thing to watch out for, because you will have, in the middle of these virtuoso passages, he will break into these very lyrical and very tender passages, and you need to express them, every single note. Now, you have to be deliberate in all this. You know, when he's writing dotted rhythms with 30-second notes, sorry. Every single note, just because he writes leggerissimo, doesn't mean that you can fluff it off.
Yes.
It all has a purpose and it all is very melodic. Your double thirds were very good. That was very, very good. In this section here, when he writes a tempo at letter H, poco ritenuto. You can keep it, you have to keep it absolutely in tempo, right? But before then, you have to be deliberate. You can be very deliberate. I would, let's see, from the, it's hard to figure out measure numbers. You have letters.
No, sadly. But I memorized the concerto. I wouldn't have any problem following.
Sure, but I mean letter, what I want to say is before letter K, or before this, the cadence here.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 measures before. Before we take a little bit of time, subito piano and a bit of a Luftpause if you can. Before this section, you have a 16th note rest, make it subito piano, because he's quite loud before then. You're at forte or mezzo forte at least, like you're telling a secret. All right.
Yes.
Can you try that? Just 2 measures before and into that passage. Yeah, sure. That was the right tempo. So. Much softer. Subito piano.
Okay.
In the G minor section, much softer. And the left hand, make it as legato as possible. Going up and staccato going down. He writes it in the score.
Yes.
Okay?
Pedaling wise, do I still pedal the staccato section or lift my pedal completely?
I'm sorry?
Pedaling wise, in that measure, do I still pedal on the staccatos or I won't completely?
You could put a little bit of pedal, but not too
Okay.
much. Not too much. All right, the conclusion here, the concluding section, the same principles, of course, of rubato and espressivo.
How would you change?
Yeah.
How would you approach the change in the tonality in the D flat section? This has been the hardest part for me to practice in this entire movement, not just because of the stretches, but because of the tone itself.
Oh, that
Am I-
particular part, take time. Take time. This is one of the crowning glories of the movement. Take all the time you need. And remember, he's your slave. The
Okay.
conductor is your slave in this concerto. That's it. Okay? But where is it? I'm looking for this passage. Play that passage, Denzel, please. No. That's okay, good. Okay. Much more time. Take far more time and far more rubato with this. Be much more declamatory with it. Don't hesitate. There's nothing polite about this piece. It's very charming from time to time, but this is not one of those places. You know, piece. This is the Krönung in German. Okay, why it's giving you problems is because it doesn't sound like much melody in the right hand. It's just a broken chord.
Yes.
Right? It's not very melodic, but you have to make it melodic. The left hand will help you, but this has to be absolutely martellato. You know, this is a far more emotionally indelicate and aggressive concerto than the first one. Remember, this came first. He wrote this before
Yes.
the first concerto. But this. It's beautiful, it's expressive, it's everything you want, but it's not this. It's not, it's much deeper, much more painful. The first concerto is structurally more organized, it's proportionalized. The structure is a bit more mature. But this is raw emotion here, absolutely raw. You know, and that's what makes it so difficult and also so interesting. But what you're saying here is quite right. But let the right hand, don't be afraid to express even perfect fifths and perfect fourths. Let the left hand help you and take time. Take time. And if you have a conductor who is difficult, just shut him up. You know, that's all. All right? And also, don't be too scholastic about this. Be much more expansive. You know, this is, like I say, this is a dreamscape. And the second one. This is a nightmare-scape. This is a nightmare he's writing here. You know, this. Whatever poetry and elegance he puts into this opening theme, he destroys it in the middle section. Listen to Schubert's sonata in A major, D 959, with the famous last. And the second section. Nothing to do with this. The same thing in the second movement of this concerto.
Yes.
He destroys it. So you have in this piece, this entire piece, it's clash. And the only reconciliation we have is in this mazurka in the end. You know, and that's the happy reconciliation, especially in. Right? Do you want to go into the second movement? Do you want me to hear you
Sure.
recording?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, let's
we
go.
still have
Let me
time?
hear- let me hear it.
Okay.
It's way too slow.
I agree.
Way too slow. This is way too metronomic. There is a dot here. It's missing.
Oh, I might need to check my audition again.
Way too slow. That's way too slow.
So sorry.
You're right, stringendo, which means move. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. There is a right. I was a bar ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, it's going to take some time. You have to digest this and keep playing it. It's at times way too scholastic and it doesn't move and it's too slow.
Yes.
Right, now take a good look at what he does in the second to last measure. It's very interesting. He puts a fermata on the low A flat. Respect it. And he also wants you to play it forte, whereas everybody else is playing pianissimo. And the rest, diminuendo, and a little bit of ritardando. But take time. Respect that fermata. Right? So this is entirely, the movement is so complicated because at times you need absolute tempo and at times you need absolute rubato. It's very, very, very difficult. But you have a good start on it. And I want to work on this with you quite a bit more. I know this very, very well. But you need to be much more deliberate with these passages and with this declamation. It's a very declamatory piece, the second movement. I don't think anything like this has ever been written before. Even in Chopin, it's one of the most original of his creations. Everything is very original in Chopin. But this especially, and from such a young guy, it's so deep and so powerful. The one thing that you must understand here, and you feel it, it's just a question of bringing it out. But when he's doing things like this, remember at this time nobody had ever heard this kind of language before. They either thought he was possessed by the devil or that he was some kind of, warlock. It's already so heartbreaking. As if that wasn't enough, he adds to it. In other words, what he's doing here is he doesn't cease to impose the pain. It's very painful, this thing, and he goes from being painful to more painful to more painful to absolute devastation. Forgive me, it's like I said, so many years since I played, it was 30 years or something. but there's a very good German word that I need you to write down, or I'll mail it to you. Herausmeißeln, to chisel. And what you have to do is pretend that this is a piece of marble, and an emotional marble, piece of marble, and you have to carve out every single emotion in this. There are emotional levels that you have to pretend that you're carving out. And it takes a great deal of time, and unfortunately a great deal of introspection and pain to get this right. And many people I know, when I was at Juilliard, a lot of people wouldn't play this because it was so difficult, emotionally to play it. Other people just jumped into it. But there were a few of them who said, I can't do this because it's too difficult. Some people can't play Schumann because of this. Schumann's level of pain threshold is so deep. I mean, the last movement of the Humoresque. Same thing with this, even more in this movement. It is just so full of pain that you have to study it almost one or two measures at a time and impose it on yourself. I'm sorry to be, I don't mean to be discouraging, because you're going to play it very well. You just need time with it.
Yes.
There's no, are you playing it soon?
Ironically, yes.
When are you playing it?
November 1st. I have a competition coming. This is my piece for the final round.
Keep practicing.
Yes.
It's going to be good, but you need a lot of work on this movement, especially.
Yes.
You need to grow out of this, sonata phase. It's rhapsodic. It's what's the word I'm looking for. It's a complete rhapsody, this movement, from one end to the other. There are no rules here. The emotional underpinnings are gone. You understand what I'm saying? This is hysteria.
Yes.
And this is the most difficult thing, is that you have to control this hysteria. This is my nickname for Scriabin, by the way, is controlled hysteria. But this is the beginning of it. Without Chopin, we don't have Scriabin or Debussy.
Yes.
This is one of the most extraordinary pieces of writing, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but keep practicing and keep focusing on these emotional variations, because they're tiny, and every single one of them is a source of depth. It brings you deeper into yourself and much closer to Chopin, much closer to yourself. Vladimir Ashkenazy, he did an interview, and in the liner notes of the Scriabin sonatas, wonderful liner notes, he says in an interview that Scriabin brought him much closer to himself and to his inner suffering. And where would Scriabin have come from if not from this? By the time these Russian composers and Debussy, but especially the Russians, came into their own tremendous school of post-romanticism, they had known this piece, and Chopin generally, but this piece, they had known this very, very well. And this hits you in the eyes, this movement. Everybody. The first time you hear this, the first time anybody hears this piece, it's like, oh my God, what's going on? It's like, he didn't write anything more challenging to the human spirit than this. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to, point you in the right direction. You're going to play it very well. But you just make sure that you take all the time you need when you need it, and make sure that it's metrically correct when you can be. Because of all the works of Chopin I know, it is probably the most expansive, emotionally expansive piece he ever did. The only other one I can imagine that can compare is the Polonaise Fantaisie.
Yes.
And again, look, his famous descending semitone. And this piece is just full of this. These tiny motives that come in and out. I'm concerned, when is your competition again?
Oh, next month, November 1st.
November 1st is in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Have you learned the third movement yet?
Yes. I've memorized everything, but it's the depth for me. That has always been my biggest struggle. Pressing deep enough on the keys or tapping into the emotional boundaries of myself. That has always been the hardest for me to process.
You have to deliver yourself to Chopin. You have to. It's confessional, is what it is. To be perfectly honest, remember, he was a Catholic, and he was raised, whether he believed in all this as he grew into adulthood is another story. And we don't know too much about this. But we do know that his heart is buried, not with his body, but in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Warsaw. His body is in Paris. That was one of his final wishes, that his heart was to be in Poland. So he had obviously a great, great sense of who he was emotionally and spiritually. And take this, start reinterpreting it, start thinking it through, Denzel, almost 4 measures at a time. And break it up into 4 measures, 4 measures, 4 measures, until each of these details, each of these nuances becomes clear, and that you can relate emotionally to every single one. There's not a measure that goes by where there is not, some tremendous emotional nuance that we have to digest. It's as simple as that. I dare say that even the slow movement of the E minor, it's deep, it's sensitive, it's emotional. It doesn't come close to the depth of the slow movement of the F minor. It's nowhere near it. It's much more charming
Yes.
and piacevole than the F minor concerto. It's almost, there are some tiny thematic relations and the things that bounce off each other, but the emotional swing, it's not that. This is kind of a nocturne. This is a rhapsody in the purest sense. So take it 4 measures at a time and bite into it. Bite into it and practice it slowly, 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 so that all these subtleties, nuances hit you. You can't fluff over this.
Yes.
You simply can't fluff over it. And listen to Rubinstein. There are many who did a beautiful job with this thing. You may not know the name. Tomasz Vasari, a Hungarian pianist, did a wonderful job of this. The Czech pianist, he'll come back to me. Ivan Moravec also did a phenomenal job of this piece. Yevgeny Kissin does a very, very wonderful job with this. But Rubinstein is the last word. And that performance at the age of 90 is tops. It's almost as if you hear this, you see this concert and you don't want to play this piece anymore. You tell yourself, what do I have to add to this? He owns it. I mean, Rubinstein owned so many pieces. Chopin, he was at his best in Chopin Brahms, absolutely. And he even said he was closer to Brahms than Chopin, but I have trouble believing it. Before your competition, let's try and have another lesson
I'd love that.
on the concerto. I think it would be important. But practice these nuances and very slowly. And it's good work. You've done very, very good work, but keep at it.
Yes.
Okay? It's good to see you again. And I hope to keep in touch
Thank you
about
so
the
much.
next lesson. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paul.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. See you next time.